All right, Donald Trump debating Hillary Clinton last night and Mike Pence, at least when it comes to policy in Syria. Donald Trump said he and his running mate had not spoken about how to stop the humanitarian crisis in Aleppo, and that he disagrees with Mike Pence's idea about using military force. But just a short time ago on CNN, Governor Pence said he had talked to Trump about their policy, and he disputes how the moderator framed the question.
The question I had, and you can check the transcript, so can your viewers, was about the humanitarian crisis in Aleppo and what we ought to do. Donald Trump's position, our position has been that we need to establish safe zones, and you need to be willing to use resources, and including military power, to secure those safe zones.
Joining us now to take a closer look at this is former CIA Director James Woolsey, a national security advisor to the Donald Trump campaign. Mr. Director, it's great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you.
Thank you. So, as it stands, as a national security advisor to the Trump campaign, what is the Trump campaign's position on Syria, on stopping the humanitarian crisis in Aleppo?
I'm not the one to ask for policy decisions. That's the candidate. But I do think that the safe zone approach, given the circumstances we're in now, is one of the only courses of action left to us. The problem really, I think, was generated by President Obama's decision to draw a red line and tell the Syrians, that Syrian government, that they could not cross it, and what that meant was they couldn't use chemical weapons against their own people. They went right ahead and did it, and the United States shrugged and handed the problem over to Russia. And we, as a result, are not being considered seriously in that part of the world.
I'm a little perplexed by your statement here. Do you not know what the policy of the campaign is when it comes to using force?
I'm going to let the candidates themselves communicate the policy to the public, not me. I'm an advisor.
Well, are you confused by the differences between the two? You know what? Let's play it for our viewers so we can all discuss it. Here's where the confusion lies. Mike Pence was asked about what to do about Syria and the humanitarian crisis in Aleppo during the VP debate. This is what he said.
The provocations by Russia need to be met with American strength. And if Russia chooses to be involved, and continue, I should say, to be involved in this barbaric attack on civilians in Aleppo, the United States of America should be prepared to use military force to strike military targets of the Assad regime, to prevent them from this humanitarian crisis that is taking place in Aleppo.
And then Donald Trump was asked the exact same question in last night's debate. Listen.
What would you do about Syria and the humanitarian crisis in Aleppo? And I want to remind you what your running mate said. He said provocations by Russia need to be met with American strength, and that if Russia continues to be involved in airstrikes along with the Syrian government forces of Assad, the United States of America should be prepared to use military force to strike the military targets of the Assad regime.
Okay. He and I haven't spoken, and I disagree. I disagree.
Where is the disagreement?
Well, look, this is for the candidates to sort out. I'm an advisor. I'm not going to sort out the politics and decision-making for you. I'll be glad to tell you what I think the advantages and disadvantages are of various courses of action. But those,
you agree with Mike Pence or Donald Trump on this, Director?
I am not going to put a stake in the ground on behalf of one or the other or an intermediate position. I'm going to tell you what I think would be wise. I've been trying to do that for a couple of minutes here, but you seem to want to get me into politics, which is not my field.
Well, wait, Mr. Director, but you are James Woolsey. You're the former CIA director. You are a national security advisor to the Donald Trump campaign. Right. When it comes to a key policy position that you would assume would be a unified position of the campaign, I would also assume you would know what it is and be able to voice it.
I'm not telling you one way or the other. The candidates are the ones who are going to communicate the policy decisions to the public, not me.
Why does it make you uncomfortable?
It doesn't necessarily make me uncomfortable. I'm just refusing to do it. I think they're the ones who are running for office. They're the ones who ought to create the doctrine and the policies and shape them the way they want, not an advisor.
One other question, Mr. Director, while we have you here. What was your reaction when you heard the Access Hollywood tape where Donald Trump was bragging about being able to grab women's genitalia and get away with it because he was famous?
Look, I work on national security matters. I've worked for 4 presidents, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, on national security matters of all kinds: counterterrorism, the size of the military, the Navy, arms control. That's what I do. I don't assess what's going on politically in the campaign.
I'm not sure that's a political question.
Position.
I'm not sure that's a political question.
Yeah,
I think it's
it is. As far as I'm concerned, it's very political. As far as I'm concerned, it's very political, and I'm not going to get into politics. I'm going to talk about substance. If you don't want me to talk about substance, then don't invite me on your show.
Well, we did ask you about substance.
I was trying to ask you about a substance on Syria, and you didn't want to give. You did not want to articulate what the position is.
You wanted me to talk politics and judgment.
My first question is, what is the campaign's position on stopping humanitarian crisis in Syria? That was
I'm
exactly
not going to convey a
what we asked,
position to you. I'm going to tell you, if you want me to, what I think the pros and cons are of various courses of action with respect to Syria and Russia and where the problem came from and the substance. But I'm not going to talk the politics.
All right, Director
James
Woolsey,
Woolsey,
thanks for being with us.
Thanks for coming on.
Goodbye.